Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Breach Ready Dialogues, the show that focuses on all aspects of a cyber attack. My guest today is Hazel Cerra, and she is an ex Secret Service member. She has a lot of experience in the physical world, and now she's bringing all of that to the digital world. And I'll let her experience speak for herself. So before I introduce you, Hazel, I just wanted to tell my audience, whether you're listening to this on your way to the office, or you're heading into a risk committee, or just trying to stay a step ahead of the next cyber incident, just give this a listen. Let me hand over to Hazel. Hazel, welcome to the Breach Ready Dialogues.
Thank you, Agni. And it's a pleasure to be here and speak to your audience. I think that what you do is really excellent work. I mean, just based on your background and having survived so many breaches, that's the kind of mentality that we want to have. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 25-year veteran with the United States Secret Service. I served in multiple offices, and I was on the president's detail for former President Bill Clinton. And I learned many things from just being in the protection side of the house, along with the investigative side of the house. I ended my career as the resident agent in charge of the Atlantic City resident office in New Jersey. And I spent a lot of my time not just investigating financial fraud cases, cyber-enabled fraud, but also protection in the intelligence space, because there were many times where the threat was very high, especially in this kind of political climate. But one thing that we do as Secret Service agents is that we are the guardians of democracy. That's what we protect, regardless of who's in that seat. They represent the most powerful person in the world, and that's the President of the United States. So we are constantly on guard as to, you never know when that day will be where there could be an attack. I mean, we always assume that there will be an attack. We always assume that someone is going to be close. So being breach ready, it has that comparison to what we do in the Secret Service. I will say that with all the years that I've been with the Secret Service, the preparation and the time that is spent in doing these advances is very similar to incident response, right? Like the way that you have an incident response plan for your organization. Think about it. In our line of work, we create that every single time the president leaves the White House, because the White House is the most securest place there is for him. We would love for him to stay there and never leave. But more and more, we're seeing that the presidents want to be out there and the people want him out there. So that's not going to happen. They're going to go out. But that does present a huge challenge for us every time he leaves the White House, because we have to start with the basics, finding out where he's going, creating partnerships, and then basically preparing for doomsday. And that is something that if you've been in the cybersecurity space for a while, you already know what that's like. You already know how to find out first, you're looking for what are your crown jewels, right? And the cybersecurity and presidential protection is very similar. Our crown jewels are the President of the United States. Now, the other similarity that we have is that we both have adversaries. You have the cyber criminals that are trying to break into your organization, whether it to be to steal money, it could be to just embarrass the organization and create reputational harm for a myriad of reasons, right? And with the Secret Service, we also have adversaries. It is constantly, on a regular basis, people make threats against the president, and we have to follow up with those threats. And it could be for a number of reasons as well. Then the last thing that we both have in common is that we both have competing interests. In our case, we want to be able to protect the president, and we want to keep him, again, isolated in the White House or somewhere else, and only take him out once a year so people can see that he's alive. But that's not going to happen, right? We have the staff that we have to work with, and their job is to make the president, put him out there so that the people could see him and that he could engage with the American public. Now, in cybersecurity, what do you have that's competing? It's your end users. And time again, we see that most of these risks or these, breaches occur because there was a human element involved. And, sometimes our end users want to circumvent the security that you have in place. I know, because I did it too. And it's not a good thing, but again, that's your competing interest. And you have the business needs to function. So you can't just say, yeah, you can't email anybody outside of the business, or you can't work from home. Like, that's not going to happen anymore. We're, in an age where people are used to working from home now. So you have to make all of these sort of compromises, right? So that the business can function and that, it could thrive. And then you're trying to apply security to all of that. And it's a huge challenge. I totally understand where everybody's coming from. And every time you make it more and more convenient, you're opening yourself up for that potential breach. And, I remember when I was a young agent, every agent starts out with a post-standing assignment, and you get your duties. You get a list of, hey, these people are allowed in, these people aren't, whatever. It's all about access control. And while you're there, I remember my leadership telling me, it's not about what you do if this happens. It's about what you do when this happens. And when you change your mindset to that instead of if and when, then you really start thinking like, oh, this is going to happen. Like, what do I need to do to protect the organization? Or in my case, what am I going to do if, somebody gets shot, or if, somebody passes out in front of me, or if I'm just trapped in this area, or how do I communicate with someone when there's nobody around? Who's the closest person that I could reach out to help or to strategize? So all these things start running through your head. And it's the same thing that we have to do in the cybersecurity space. And, one of the things that I say about cybersecurity is that, there's three of the best inventions in the world, right? And I say the wheel, fire, cybersecurity professionals, because without you all, the economy would just plummet. So you have such an important role in the space, and it's just important to be breach ready, just like this podcast is. It's really important to do that. So from my experience in the Secret Service, one of the things that I think that we did very well was our training. And it's also in law enforcement too. It's not just the Secret Service, but we train, and the same way that we practice. So whatever it is that we're preparing for, like some kind of event that could be catastrophical, where let's just say multiple layers of defense failed, we know how to react. So if we go with the president to some kind of event, and we've already done our advanced work, we've already created our version of the incident response plan, that location is very secure. But things happen. Maybe somebody, somehow brought a weapon in, or some kind of, tool to hurt the president. We know exactly what to do in that kind of scenario. And what we call it is maximum to the protectee, minimum to the problem, which means that we are going to grab that protectee and run the hell out of there. Just take them into safety. And we have multiple exit routes. One thing that people do wrong all the time is that when you go into like a big crowded event, people will always go back to where they came from. If they entered a certain way, they're just going to go back that way. That's not our mindset. We're always looking for different ways, and we have a plan to go a different way. We don't go in the same place that the public enters. And, sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to drive by this area, I'm going to see the president. The president's not coming in with the public. That will never happen. So we already have that evacuation mindset it documented as to what everybody knows what to do. And what we need to do is transfer that into cybersecurity, where yes, you have an incident response plan. That's great. But how often do you look at that plan? Have you reviewed it?
Right.
Are their names current? Right? Do you have it written up that it's so complicated that people don't understand what to do? That plan should be really in like 3rd, 5th grade language, very simple, where you could rip it out and you could look at it and update it. Something that, again, everybody's aware of. And the other thing is that plan shouldn't just be sitting in your network. It has to be somewhere that's accessible. Actually, I have something in my wallet that I still have from when I left the agency. And we carry one of the, oh, you can't see it. We carry one of these with us. Hold on, you can't see it because oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a card. There you go.
Yes, you can
it's
see
a card. Yes, it's our evacuation plan. So we know what to do, but this is just for us as agents in our office. Like if something happens, because obviously we're a target, where our employees are a target, our building is a target. So we protect ourselves. And if something were to go wrong, it has where we're going to meet as a rally point. And everything is in there. So I carry that in my wallet everywhere I go. How many of you have your incident response plan accessible? Because I will tell you that I've gotten phone calls from CISOs that were on vacation and they say, I'm in the middle of a breach. How do you think that happened? That happened because your bad guy was already in your system. They knew when you were going on vacation. So you have to plan for these things, because I always say they're going to get you when your pants are down. It's not going to happen at 10 o'clock after you had your coffee and your bagel on a Monday. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen on a weekend. It's going to happen on a holiday weekend at that. I've seen that happen many times. I had an investigation where that occurred. It was a big business. And right on that holiday weekend, it was a disgruntled employee. And he decided to log into the VPN. They hadn't changed his credentials. And he deleted all their voice files. So now here's a holiday weekend and had to bring everybody in to repair everything. It was a mess. And they did a couple of things wrong. I'm not going to go into the whole story unless you want me to. But anyway, it's about being breach ready. Just assume that the bad guy's inside your system and they know everything that you're doing, because they do. I mean, if they're in there, they're just waiting for that opportunity. I mean, one thing about criminals is that they're unbelievably persistent, and they are going to wait when the timing is right, because they've done a lot of work. So they're not going to execute willy-nilly. They're going to do it when it's the most opportunistic. So especially for like BEC, they're not going to wait for the $2,000 wire. They're going to wait for that $500,000 wire. That's what they want. Yeah. So, don't assume that, we've been doing wires forever. But when there's a certain threshold that they're monitoring, and that's when they're going to hit you. So going back to being breach ready, one of the things that I recommend is tabletop exercises. And the reason for it is because you have to practice all the scenarios of what could go wrong.
You're going back to your card, your card that you showed. And I think what you're trying to bring on the table is muscle memory. Like you explained what you guys do when you go to events and when you have to plan for, what should happen in the event of an emergency, and that you have the exit routes planned. Let me unpack whatever you said until now.
Yes, please do.
It was a lot, but I think you've practically done the whole podcast by now.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm just trying to unpack. But there's a lot what you said, which, and I'm going to now speak it in terms of being breach ready. One of the things that I think you started off by saying is you need to know the landscape. You need to know where you're headed. If you go into an event, you need to do the recce to figure out what the exit points are, where would somebody come in from, where would you exit in the event of an emergency, and everybody on the team will know that like the back of his hand, right?
Yes.
So it's very important, and I think that is where ColorTokens has taken up this whole step of microsegmentation, because what you're trying to do is to divide the enterprise into small bits and pieces, into microsegments. Now, what happens with that is your governance becomes so much easier. Instead of one single block where you don't know who's going where, you now have clearly demarcated smaller boxes so that you know, and you can divide them into zones, right? So you can say, okay, yes. So all my critical servers are going to be in certain zone. You can have more than one zone if it wants, but broadly you should have, let's say, 3 to 4 zones. The zone which you really want to protect. The second zone is where you have your IT teams and those experts who have access to the zone. So even if the IT teams are not available, it's okay, but the critical zone keeps working, because you're focusing, yes. Your whole idea of being breach ready is to be unaffected when the day comes, if the breach does happen.
Yes. And so, Agni, and while you were saying that, what I was thinking about was, it's a perfect example of a fire alarm system, yes. Right? So when we do our assessments at a hotel where the president's going to stay, we're looking at, if there's a fire in one of the floors, what is the response? And oftentimes it's just that they're segmented. So if there's a fire on the 17th floor, the whole building doesn't evacuate. That is contained, and the fire is contained on the 17th. It might be like maybe the floor above, maybe also the floor below, but that the sprinklers will go on, they will contain that fire. Then the rest of the building can function, right? We don't want to evacuate everybody. We don't want to evacuate the people that are checking into the lobby when it's not necessary, when it's a small thing. So to your point, that's what came to my mind as far as when you want to do like that micro segmentation.
I think you also said another thing, which is very important for what I preach about breach readiness, and that is to prepare earlier, to model. For example, what you can do with modern microsegmentation is that you can model your defenses. There's enough information, for example, on CISA. And if you have, say, for example, an AI inside your system, which can look up CISA, which can look up MITRE. MITRE gives you attack tactics. CISA gives you attacker profiles. And you already have in your enterprise the context, which tells you, okay, these are my critical servers, these are my not so critical servers. And if you combine all of that, then you can figure out, okay, so what if a Chinese actor were to attack us? Right? What would that look like? And it's documented on CISA website. And that's how you create those plans. Let's say I call them playbooks, breach ready playbooks. So that, and the playbooks are not only technical jargon, because there's of course a technical part to it, which means you need to figure out how you're going to disconnect systems from which other systems, which microsegments from which other microsegments. So ideally, let's say you had 26 microsegments, and you had, in your view, a fire on the 17th floor.
Right.
It should remain, if the attack happens in microsegment C, it should at the most go to B and D, but nothing more than that. You should be able to contain it on time, which means you now need to know a model, that the people need to be trained. And what happens usually in a breach is that it's not so much about the technology, it's about everything else. Because as you said, you also said this earlier, and I was just thinking, comparing it to IT systems, that it's never that your security technology fails. Security technology is technology. It's like, as long as the conditions are the same, it's going to work the same every time. It's not going to fail. What really fails are the changes, and you mentioned the changes as well. That you don't want the president to go out. You want them to stay inside, but they want to go out, because that's business.
Yeah. Yes.
You want to do business, and therefore you want change. You want to change a procedure. You want the humans to make a change. They can make errors. There's so many things that are going haywire at the same time. If you're not prepared for change, now the traditional method of working used to be that, you need to do change management. And I know, given my experience, change management and asset management, which is to know what all assets you have in the organization, are the two most misused capabilities in every company. There's no difference, small or big. No, you won't come across someone who can tell you, I have 100 assets and I know exactly what they are. I know exactly where they are. I know exactly how they're connected and I know exactly how they work. No, there's no one like that in the universe. So the fact is, asset management is never ever going to be 100% correct. The second part is change management. There are changes we do, there are changes we follow through. Of course, change management is a good procedure, but what happens is there's certain changes that you cannot do. For example, and I'm going back to some of the breaches that happened, typically in industrial systems. There are systems that, I think a few days ago, there was a CVE that came out, Common Vulnerability Enumeration, as they call it, a number of vulnerability, which said it was 9.9 for a device which was manufactured by one of the top, OT companies. I think it was Rockwell or Siemens or somebody like that, which is in deployment in multiple places. Remember Stuxnet, where they say that there was some virus that went in? So which means now this system is vulnerable. And an attacker can go in and attack. Now you don't have at that situation a mechanism to do change management because you're already vulnerable. And as you said, the perpetrator probably already inside. But what you can do is you can narrow down, because we decide who gets to connect. We decide who to give access to, which means we need to decide what should be the path that someone can reach it from and where. If we are able to do that, if your tools are able to give you that knowledge, then you can go to the next phase. So in a way, I feel that microsegmentation is your most foundational capability that decides who can get access to and where. So So if that is so, if that is so, in that case, the main thing that happens then is the moment you implement this kind of technology, you narrow down the attack path.
Yes.
So which means you only allow the valid user to go in, and if the invalid user, and let me give you another example for this. I know I'm talking for a long time, haven't done that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
But what I'm trying to say is think about this. Let's say there's a user who goes in and who's trying to find an application. So you go to Office, for example. You go in there, you open your Outlook or email or whatever application. You just go in there, go to the system, open your application, do your job, and you get out. That's a normal user. The perpetrator is not going to do that. The perpetrator is going to go there, let me find out what other ports are open. Where can I move from here? And because microsegmentation actually stops lateral movement, suddenly they don't find abilities to move around. So it narrows down the attack path. The second thing that microsegmentation does is it stops lateral movement, which means now you found that there are 10 servers connected on a LAN, but you just can't go from server 1 to server 2 because that's not allowed. So basically what microsegmentation does is giving an example of your secret service thing, is it predefines how the president should move.
Yeah, it does.
How others will move, which means you're
really
very
more
clear.
How others will move.
Yes, you're very clear that others cannot come here, cannot travel across this, and you're going to say, sir, you're not allowed to be here. And you will also notice the behavior that person exhibits to determine whether he's a threat or not.
Correct. And there's multiple ways to do that. But like you said, like sometimes it's not a person of how we can limit movements. It could be just that we blocked that area somehow. So very similar to microsegmentation is limiting that access to the areas that we know the president's going to walk through. Like the president's going to come in and he's first going to, he's going to do his thing. He's going to settle down. He's going to prepare for his speech. He might have some photos that he's going to take first, but that whole area is not going to be open to the public. And he may want to meet a few people. Right. But that area is closed off to the public.
Yes.
So we are, in essence, segmenting
narrowing down the
location and the paths, because the walkway where the president is going to be the most secure with every asset that we have, because that is going to be our innermost ring. Everything else is going to be contained because we're going to have an area for the public to come in. We're going to have an area for maybe VIPs. We have an area for the press to come in. everything is going to be basically segmented separately. And,
Yes.
and it's done that way on purpose because we don't want that flow, right? It's like almost another thing that comes to my mind is like when you go to this big hall where there's like multiple weddings going on, you don't want one wedding guest to go to the other wedding, show. You want them kind of all contained into their own spots. And that's why those places are successful.
Yes.
Because you could
Yes.
have 10 weddings at one time. So yeah, you have to segment things, especially the most concentrated area is going to be where your crown jewels are. That area has to be the most secure.
Absolutely. And then like you said, I think the framework that I use, which I told you earlier as well, anticipate, withstand, and evolve, actually has two main parts. It's about anticipation. It's about preparing for an attack. So what you do is you first go and do an assessment, what we call as a breach readiness impact assessment, and you figure out what your current state is. That's the first recon that you need to do, right? Just like an attacker does recon, you go and do a recon on your enterprise. And then you figure out, okay, so I have these things. Let me now do a model. Let me try and build models. Okay, so if the attacker were ransom hub and I have a web server that's on the outside, it needs to be on the outside because that's my business. And it has a vulnerability which I did not know it had until CISA came up or somebody came up with that vulnerability. But I can't fix it immediately because the business won't allow that downtime. So I need to figure out a way that if someone were to exploit that, how far can he go? Have I stopped and reduced that attack path so that should someone even attack that web server, and that web server goes down, that person shouldn't be able to go in. That's what I need to ensure. That's the modeling part. And then you take the modeling part, and then you train the organization, build breach-ready playbooks, that if this server goes down, if this is the indicator of an attack, then immediately the IT teams are going to alert ABCD, and someone is going to tell the CFO, you know what, we should be doing this now. You should be telling this to the market. Someone should go and tell your let's say SVP manufacturing that you need to tell your teams who are working on this floor to go and work on this floor. This is digital, very different from physical because you can't see anything. So these plans need to be done well ahead in advance so that when the attack happens, then you move to the second phase. The second phase is to withstand the attack. And most people think in terms of response, in terms of containment. No one is thinking about withstanding, but that to me is the most important part because you want your business to work unaffected even when the attack is going on, even when the most unprecedented attack is going on. And the only way you can do that is like the example you gave. If there was an incident, you would make sure that your president is out. That's the first thing. That's your first priority. The president remains unaffected. That's what the business needs to focus on. That if there's an attack, someone triggers it, cybersecurity teams get called in, the narrative in front of the media will be very different. Instead of saying, we had a cyber attack, and then to save the interest of all stakeholders, we shut down the whole company. You will go and say, we had a cyber attack, we are in operation, we're in continuous operation, we have got the best cybersecurity guys looking at the attacker, and we will we will come back to you in a certain period of time and let you know how we've dealt with it. So it gives confidence to the stakeholders that yes, this company is doing this. And today this breach readiness impact assessment is so simple. I come from a world where microsegmentation was a scare. It used to take 18 months to do microsegmentation. Now it takes about, so if I remember correctly, we recently did something like 10,000 assets in about 4 hours. We could figure out what's going on.
Wow.
That's because
what's the average on that though? Like what do
let me tell you how it works. So there are two ways. So typically if this intelligence were to work, you need an agent or a software agent onto the system, right? That's what the usual method was. What we did was much smarter. We figured out that there is a way you can leverage an existing tool. So someone has an EDR, let's say CrowdStrike. Why should I go about putting another agent? I now built a relationship with CrowdStrike, and I'm going to take the data that CrowdStrike's already ingested. They've been in the system for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They've got the network data far better than anybody else. So all that I need to do is ingest that data and build microsegments out of that. That's why it takes so less time. And it could be CrowdStrike, it could be Microsoft Defender, it could be Sentinel-1, whatever the next one that comes out. The idea is that tomorrow's CISO, I mean, in 2026, I wrote a blog recently that in 2026, you should be thinking unaffected. How can I keep the business unaffected? You should not be thinking, oh, do I need an MFA? Of course you need an MFA.
Yeah.
But when you think of investment like that, then you're looking at it from a different angle. Then you're thinking, okay, I have 10 servers. I need 10 antivirus. I need 10 of this. I need 20 of that. Now that's a shopping list. But to your example of one, large area with 10 different weddings going on, no one thinks about how many guards do I need in the beginning, unless they figure out I've got 10 weddings, I need to segment them out. I need to make sure that the paths are very clear. Now that's a very different approach versus, oh, I have got 10 weddings, so I need 200 guards. You really don't need so much. You can optimize. You can focus your investment in things that you need more than things that you need less. But I think I spoke a lot. You got me thinking, actually, after you told me.
I know that, and that's what that's why it's so exciting that I could bring what I've learned, in the highest levels of protection. I mean, the Secret Service has over 130 years of protection experience. I dare to say that no one does it better than we do. And then when you make that comparison to cybersecurity, it's just so similar, right?
Yes.
It's so similar.
Yes.
And I feel that with the Secret Service, we're just, years in advance of the trends that you are all facing now. And that's what's, again, when I made the comparison, it was like, wow, this is insane. It's the same thing. It's security. And it's just very basic things that we do in my agency that the private sector is just starting to implement, So yeah, the microsegmentation, to me, that's a no-brainer in my world, because that's just access control, and that's just having multiple rings.
Zero trust. It's actually
zero trust. Exactly. Zero trust, which what we call is zero fail. Same thing.
Yes.
Right. Just like John Kinderbag, right? The godfather of zero trust model. Yes.
Yes. And there was this standard called NIST 800-207.
Yes.
That's got I think in clause 3.1, and like I told you earlier, I'm good with standards. There was a time where you could wake me up and I would tell you which clause of 27,001 you need to think of by clause number. So that's why I'm referring to clause number. So in NIST in NIST 800-207, there is a clause 3.1 which tells you how you could implement zero trust in your enterprise, and it gives you multiple methods. It gives you how you can look at it as enhanced identity protection, how you can look at it through microsegmentation, how you can define software-defined networks, and you can bring in all of those. But the basic thing that I like about that is the fact that you have to assume breach. Unless you're doing that, you are not really investing. And that's not the traditional method of thinking. Oh, I need network security, perimeter security, I need this, I need that. If you turn that around, and if you say, let's look at it from the perspective of how we are going to do business and how we would assume breach as we do business. If we assume breach, then you're looking at it from the perspective of being ready for the next P1 incident.
Right. You have to look at it as, like you're the adversary. Like you have to think like the wolf. And if you apply that think like the wolf mentality, then you could see all the holes in your security plan, and you could start working through those holes and how you're going to patch them. And, the basic foundation is what everything that you just said with the microsegmentation, that's just laying out the lay of the land. But then there's still those other things that are going on that you still have to deal with. And, that's why I recommend highly to do that tabletop exercise, because you have to talk through all of that, talk through all of those problems. And then, once you do that, and I highly recommend that you do that virtually. I mean, how many breaches that you were in actually happened in the office?
Initially, lots of them, because we used to be in
lots of them.
But what happened over a period of
True.
time was that, and when I say lots of them, I mean, at that time, more people were in office. This was like 1990s, and everybody was in
Yes,
office
it was
all the time.
an office environment. All right, so maybe after.
Yeah. And the fun part was, and I know people are going to laugh on when I say this, we had a firewall administrator who would shut down the firewall after office work.
Wow.
Yeah, office is over. You guys go home. Why do you need to connect? Those were the times where everything used to happen in office. But later on, as we transitioned into being more available 24/7, things changed. And that, okay, just like right now, everybody's transitioning into AI, and it's everything is so uncomfortable. There are a bunch of guys who know a lot. There's a bunch of guys who don't know anything about it. There are a bunch of guys in the middle who are still working out what we really need to do. We had the same experience ourselves, right? 24/7, we didn't know what to expect. So once we started going 24/7, you're right. You don't need to meet in person. In fact, the tabletop exercises that people developed after that, and one of the biggest mistakes people do is that they discuss about events and then they improvise on the response. And I have done many of those, as well. And what I figured out, I'm just giving you an example from my days in HP, that I was in a crisis management meeting, and people were discussing about the tabletop exercise that they did, and I asked them, so what was the result? What did you find? They said, no, we're good. I mean, we decided to work from home. I said, hold on, your business continuity plan doesn't list that as an option. So what did you exercise? No, this gentleman who was the regional director of that location, he was in the room and he said, we're going to work from home, and that's where we ended. I said, no, that's not how you exercise. The way you exercise is that you need to exercise a plan that is implemented and that is repeatable, because you need to be comparable, repeatable, and hence predictable in the event something were to go wrong.
That's exactly right.
You cannot do just because you had a smart guy in the room, it's like designed for failure. You don't want smart people. You want people who are trained, who got it in their muscle memory to go and do the same thing over and over again every time. It's only then you reduce the error. That's when you're going to come up and say, you know what? My incident response plan is working because I'm able to do the same thing every time for a different scenario.
Yes. No, 100%. That's how it has to be. It has to be muscle memory. It has to be something that you practice on a regular basis. And if you think about it, in our schools for our children, how often do they have a fire drill? Why do you think they do that? Because little kids, they need to learn where they need to go if there's a fire.
And they're better than us.
Oh, absolutely. They do it on a regular basis. And unfortunately, they do active shooter drills now. But they're learning how to react when that kind of situation occurs. So if we could do this for our schools, why aren't we doing that for the enterprises? Why aren't we applying that same quarterly, mindset to applying like your reaction to a breach, where all your teams are together? And what I was getting at with practicing the tabletop exercise is that do it in a virtual space, because that's more likely how it's going to come down. It's not going to happen at the office.
And you might have a security expert who's across the world. If your attack happened in Australia, the security expert might be in the US. Or if your attack happened in Europe, the security expert might be in Singapore. You don't really know. It's anyway going to be over the wire. So yes, it completely makes sense. But I know we talked a lot, but we have, I would love chatting with you continuously. There's more that we can discuss. But before we go, is there any recent incident that comes to your mind that, if people had thought about all these things, then they might have been far better?
I think, again, they all have the same premise, which is social engineering, and it's the human element. And I've seen so many different scenarios, so many different incidents. It's hard to pinpoint it, one, with the limited time that we have here. Um, but there's been things that I've seen just offboarding people where something gets missed and then that person continues to have access to the enterprise. That's something that really needs to just be solidified as an organization. Um, Other things is just not applying the controls, not teaching your employees security awareness. And one of the advice that I usually give is that teaching your employees about security awareness should be more personal to them, where you're teaching them about security in general, like
Exactly.
how to protect your Wi-Fi at home, how to protect your bank accounts, how to protect on social media.
Across
Yeah.
everything.
Everything.
Right? So,
Right.
one of the things that we bring to the table is the fact that it doesn't matter whether you are on IT or industrial systems or the cloud. The way you need to do this whole planning about being breach ready needs to be the same. You need to apply the same.
It does.
But
It does.
One last question before we go. Tell us about your current role and how exciting that is.
Oh, I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm a former Secret Service agent and I left a couple of weeks ago and I just joined BlackCloak, and their mission is to protect digital lives. And I am the director of digital security Convergence. And it's a excellent role for me, like the perfect fit, because I do believe that the way that the physical space is affected, it starts with the digital information, the digital, information of things that are out there. So in order to protect executive these days, it's almost like that battleground that people, I don't think that enterprises are realizing that that's a new battleground, because adversaries, what they always do is they look for soft targets, and you can no longer just protect the enterprise. You have to protect the executives that represent the enterprise. It's very similar to what we do, right? We don't just protect the White House, we protect the president. We protect him everywhere he goes. Why? Because he represents the country. So it's the same thing with BlackCloak. They found this gap, and I'm just mad that I didn't come up with the idea. But I'm happy to be in an organization where I could still be mission oriented, because at the end of the day, it's not just protecting digital lives, but it's protecting the safety of these people, because there's just a lot of, unfortunately unbalanced, people out there, and that they are willing to harm someone for their own beliefs. And BlackCloak does it really well. They have what they put out was the digital executive framework. The digital executive protection framework. And out of all of those various items in there, they have a subnet of the majority of them. So it's like a one-stop shop. And most of it is that they're protecting the devices of your executives, because you know that when they leave the work and they go home, they're very comfortable at home, just like we all are. We're comfortable. So they get on their devices and they're going to start doing work, whether it's, on their work device or their personal device. They're going to use their computers. They're all on the same network. And guess who's on the same network? Their children, their spouses. And what BlackCloak does, it protects all of the devices of not just the executive, but their entire family. And if they have a second home, they protect that as well. And what's really great about it is that they have a 24/7 concierge white glove service of 55 members in US-based SOC that will initiate incident response, or even just to entertain a question. So that, I think, is one of the most valuable assets that they offer, is that, holding the executive's hand or their family member through anything. Because I've seen a lot in the Secret Service. One of the crimes that was, there was an uptick in sextortion. We've seen a lot of that, and it's, people, freak out when something's happening to your child. I know I got a call from my doctor that her son was being sextorted, And I thought, what's wrong? Are my doctors texting me? This is really weird. But that's the kind of stuff that's happening. So to be in BlackCloak and to be an executive, and when you have so much on your mind, to be able to not have to worry about that and have that peace of mind where we can handle the incident response and take care of everything. I think that's a huge, valuable
Absolutely.
asset. And the organizations are realizing that. And I mean, BlackCloak is, it's very present. They've made a great name for themselves because the services are far, they're uncomparable to anything else on the market. So, and that was one of the reasons why I came here, because I do believe in the mission. I believe in the work that they do. I could have gone to other companies, larger scale, but I'm a mission person, and this felt to me protecting digital lives was something that I could stand behind.
Thank you so much, Hazel. I mean, it was a pleasure talking to you.
And pleasure talking to you too.
And welcome to chaos, because you're coming from order. The enterprise world is all of chaos because there are multiple interests, and you'd realize that I would say you were in a nicer world before. As compared to
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. No, we had chaos all the time.
No, so you were in a situation where you had chaos in the organization that you built. Here you're going to find that the organization itself is chaos. That's the difference. Okay. So let me stop recording. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.